How did you enter into real estate in the first place?
At the end of 30 days, if you don't like the way I work, you can let me go. You owe me nothing. And I got hired that day.
Of how did you continue to buy them with like financing and everything? So
People telling themselves all the time, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's like, yeah, if you tell yourself a million times you can't do something, guess what? You're right.
What got you from level 1 to level 2, and level 2 to level 3, and level 3 to level 4?
But I'm getting my way at level 5 because I'm expecting to do the same thing. Spending all of that time, all of that energy, all of that money, and having to come to closing with a check to pay off a balance, that was a hard lesson.
Welcome back to the Revamp Podcast. Super excited. Our episode today is brought to us by Delco Property Investors. Delco Property Investors is a real estate networking group that I started at, 10 years ago. Nice. Second Tuesday of every month, you should come out to the Ridley House in Ridley, Pennsylvania. Delco Property Investors, check it out. So today, awesome guest, got Pete McGuinn, buddy of mine, agent, investor, landlord.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything,
yep.
And excited to get into it with you.
Yeah,
man.
me as well. I mean, looking forward to it. I have to say I'm a little nervous for this one because I feel like you've had a lot of big fish in this pond here, so I feel like...
Yeah, but you're too humble, man. You know that you are a big fish. You just, you don't play like you are, but we know.
I'm a medium fish, I suppose.
That's fair. That's fair. Medium fish. So let's get into that. So you do a little bit of everything. Yep. We've worked together in the past. You're super well versed in everything from the agent's side, right? Yep. Like you work with banks, you've done flips, you've been a landlord, but take us all the way back to the start. Like how did you enter into real estate in the first place?
All right, fair enough. So I got admitted to Westchester University out of high school, and it just wasn't like mentally ready to start college. I had to hit pause on that. So I decided to take a year off in between high school and college. If I didn't, frankly, I probably would have just failed out. So I just had to take some time off and kind of get my head right. So at the time, I put my acceptance to college on hold. I didn't realize that Westchester did not put my dormitory on hold. So I showed up to college with a car full of stuff, and that was the day I realized I had nowhere to live.
No shit.
Yeah, I showed up to the dorm.
That's a shock.
Yeah, I just didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I was young and stupid, and I was just like, which one's my dorm? And they're like, you don't have one.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I had to go on what, I think was Craigslist or what became Craigslist or whatever, which was like this older style post format internet site. And I just looked up rentals in Westchester. And at the time, they put people's names on it. So I could see who the poster was. And I recognized the last name of somebody as an older brother of somebody who I went to high school with. So I reached out and just said like, hey, are you looking for somebody? So it turned out that 3 of those guys had just graduated from college and were moving to Westchester to kind of like start their lives or whatever. And they rented a place where they needed a 4th roommate. I was starting I was 19 because I'd taken that year off. And so anyway, I became their 4th roommate. That situation was fun, but as a first-time tenant, I was like, wow, this place is run down. We are paying astronomical amount of money. And like that part of things didn't make sense. But then I started to realize, like, well, wait a second. What if I just shifted things and went from being the tenant to the landlord? And so I went out and I bought my first property my sophomore year in college.
No crap.
Yeah. So that's when I first started. And the first place I bought was for myself. I lived in it. That was in media. But then that process went kind of smoothly. And I rented rooms out to my friends and stuff like that to help pay for it. But at that point, I decided, well, why don't I try to go out and try to buy more properties? Like that worked out pretty well. And this, I mean, all fairness, asterisks, like this was during like the no doc stated income mortgage days.
Yeah, because I know that's going to be the number one question that everybody has anyway. How did you buy even that first house, let alone think about buying another one after that?
Fair enough. So going back even further, if you will. So like in high school, like I've always had jobs that probably I wasn't quite right for. That's probably the wrong way to phrase that. But what I mean by that is like my first real job that I had in high school, a friend of mine, her dad owned an engineering company here in Delaware County, and he had a bunch of cars, and I've always loved cars. And so her and I were chatting one day, and she's like, oh, my dad owns all these. I didn't even know what it was at the time, but he owned like a couple Stanley steamers, which were like a steam run vehicle. And then he had like a DeLorean and an old Jaguar and stuff, but he had a Cobra. And I've always loved Cobras. And so she was like, yeah, he's like going to rebuild it and restore it or whatever. And so I was like, tell your dad I will work for him for free if he lets me work on the Cobra. And she was like, are you serious? I was like, that's serious. So she went and talked to him, and he was like, I'll hire him right now. So
that's awesome.
I worked for him. I think I started when I was 15, and I worked for him from 15 to, I don't know, like 20, give or take. But yeah, so as other kids were working, like doing kind of more basic jobs, I was working at an engineering firm, and he was paying me kind of more than a typical person was making it at that age.
He was paying you more than zero that you signed up for.
Sure.
So.
And then from there, when I left working for him, my second job, I worked for a pharmaceutical company, which I wasn't qualified to work for either. And I got that job the same way.
Which is so interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I went when I left his company, I didn't quite know where to go, and I didn't feel as if I could like go backwards. So I felt like I need to then I can't go from like an engineering firm to working at like a hoagie shop. I just didn't see that kind of trajectory going. So, but I did go to like a headhunter, and I applied at the headhunter, and she said to me at the time, like, look, I'm probably going to get you some gigs working for like catering companies or whatever until we can find a fit for you. And I was like, okay, I suppose. But anyway, like a month goes by, I never heard from her. So I called her back, and I was like, look, it's been a month. Like, you haven't even pitched me one job yet. And she was like, not going to lie to you, totally forgot about you. And I was like, okay, appreciate your honesty. And she said, well, I've got a job. It's for a pharmaceutical company in Westchester. You are not qualified at all. In any way, shape, or form, you're not qualified. But it's a friend of mine that works in HR. She owes me a favor. She agreed to interview you just to kind of get that process going because you haven't been on an interview in a long time. So I said, fine. We went, and I was working on a dual major at the time of finance and management, business management, because I knew I wanted to be in business for myself. They hire only people with like biology degrees or something that fits the pharmaceutical industry. So, she opened up and said, like, first things first, I'm not hiring you. And I was like, okay, great. And we went into the interview or whatever. And then
at least that makes it comfortable, right?
Sure.
Takes away all the stress. Yeah.
You are not getting hired.
We're just talking? All right, cool.
Yeah, great. So at the end of that, I did the same thing again. I was like, hey, it's been a pleasure meeting you. Here's what I'm offering. I'm going to offer to work for you for free for 30 days. At the end of 30 days, if you don't like the way I work, you can let me go. You owe me nothing. At the end of 30 days, if you like the way I work, we have to talk about you bringing me on and employing me. And I got hired that day. And I never worked a day for free.
Dude.
So I tell people all the time.
Dropping bombs right there in
you
itself, man.
You just have to like do it. You got to throw a Hail Mary, you know?
Yeah.
And so I got hired in that job. I first got put into making sure that their equipment was being validated, which was interesting. Basically, I was sending a lot of stuff out to Boston, and they were kind of making sure everything was in line with how it had to get checked out, and that we had all the certs, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, my point with all that is not here talking about working for pharmaceutical companies for free, was that, that job I worked at full-time while going to college full-time.
Okay.
So, I'm trying to get into other things. I was diagnosed with a learning disability growing up. So because of that learning disability, I had priority scheduling in college. So I was in Westchester. It went athletes first. I think it was athletes first, but athletes, and then anybody with priority scheduling, and then everybody else. So I was able to hand pick every class that I had.
Wow. Okay.
So I would either pick classes that were very first thing in the morning, or almost at night, so I could work a 40-hour week in between.
Gotcha.
So I was going to college and then going to work at the same time. My point with that is that was what kind of helped me start the process of getting pre-approved and stuff. I had an actual job. I made a very good living, especially for being a college student at that point from that pharmaceutical company. Even though I wasn't qualified necessarily to have that job, the income matched what it would have been if I was qualified. I never got paid. I never got a difference in pay, which I probably should have, frankly.
Yeah.
But I didn't get that difference in pay. So I don't know, but like it is what it is at this point. But like, so
Still a little bitter about it, but
no, I'm not bitter. I'm just I'm trying to paint a picture of like this thing. Like I don't want it to come off as sounding any certain way, but like so that job, my salary at the time, I made $75,000 base with a $25,000 a year per diem. So I was making $100,000 and I was a sophomore in college.
Yeah.
You know, so
with
like
no degree and you
Yeah.
weren't even really qualified
not
for
qualified.
the position
Yeah,
either.
right.
Yeah.
But so that is what helped me kind of get into it. So kind of going back to your original question, which I'm now 15 minutes away from and explaining.
No, man, this is great. Dude, seriously, there were so many golden nuggets just in what you said. I mean, just in the fact of having the balls to go into an interview where you're not qualified
Yeah.
and be like, yeah, no, I'll work for free.
Yeah, let's
and
see how it
people
goes.
respect that so massively because it's like, first and foremost, this guy's got grit. He's got balls. I like that. He's got character and he's willing to do whatever it takes.
Yeah, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure it out.
Dude,
It's
that's
just,
huge.
The bottom line is I'm going to figure it out. And look, maybe if by figuring it out, I figure out that I'm not the right person for the job.
For sure.
So what?
Yep.
I'm in college. What's the downside? Like, could I do the same thing now? It would be a lot harder. You know, I've got a wife with 3 kids going into a place and be like, you don't have to pay me for a month.
Yeah, right.
A little bit different, you know?
Yep.
But like, that's why I look at people in their situations at times and think like, maybe what you need to do is remove yourself from the box and think outside of it. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but like, I tell people at times they're like, oh, well, what should I do when I go into a job interview? Like, you want to set yourself apart, offer to work for free.
Yeah.
You're like, worst thing that's going to happen is they're going to tell you you're crazy, you're going to leave. Second worst thing is you're going to work for free. Third thing is you're going to get hired and they're going to be like, whatever. A lot of other people aren't offering to work for free.
Yep.
Anyway, so I bought that first house and then I was like, well, being a tenant doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but being a landlord does. So basically, I just drove around Delaware County. I didn't quite have a direction. I wasn't a real estate agent then. I tried to work with a couple of real estate agents. Ironically, it didn't really work out. I get it now from my stance now, currently. Like, I was 20 years old. I'm sure a lot of people weren't taking me seriously.
Yeah.
They probably had a fair amount of reason not, you know, like, I didn't know what I was doing. They didn't realize, like, I was just going to throw stuff at the wall and try to figure it out. Like, they probably thought they were wasting their time, and I get that. So every property I bought to start, I bought off market. And so like I would just drive around Delaware County, and my thing was that I wanted to buy, and I broke my own rule, spoiler alert, but I wanted to buy properties that were designed for what they were. Like, I didn't want to buy like a chopped up Victorian. I figured like even the best chopped up houses that I've seen, there's still just something that's not right. Either the flow or like the electric is not separated correctly, heat, whatever it happens to be. So I wanted to buy stuff that was designed to be what it was. So once I found those streets, I would just handwrite letters to people and say like, I'll buy your house. And, you know, at the time I didn't know if it would work, if it wouldn't work. Nobody told me to do it. I didn't have like a mentor or anything. I was just trying to like figure out like what could work, what could get people's attention. And so I sent out a bunch. I got a bunch of replies back. And that's kind of how things got started. I bought 10 within a pretty short period of time.
While you were still in college?
Most of them while I was still in college, so a couple right after I graduated. And that came with the learning curve, you know? Like, again, I was 20, 21 at the time. Like, I was mature and immature at the same time.
I get it.
You know, so like, I don't think that I did a great job at some of the stuff, looking back on it. Like, I was more transactional with it. I was not a good landlord to start. It took me some time to realize like this is a two-way street. This isn't just like you pay me but again, my only situation where having a landlord, that's what it was. We paid them. They never came. We never heard from them. We had to figure out our own problems. So that was my only experience with it. It wasn't until I owned them and I realized that some of the places were not where I wanted them to be conditionally. It was like, oh wait, I need to like put my time into these. This isn't as passive.
You improve this.
Passive income.
You learn pretty quick that it's not really
money.
passive.
Yeah, it's mailbox money. And you're also going to be there a bunch.
That's right. So 2 questions, and they're kind of in different directions. So I want to come back to the one of how did you continue to buy them with like financing and everything. So we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
But like, what gave you the desire to go out and buy more than one rental property? Like, what was it? You had a number in your head and you're like, I want to own X amount of properties just because, or were you like, I want to be able to make X amount of dollars a month in rental income, or what fueled that fire?
Fair. I mean, there was a little less thought behind it originally. So like in my business classes, like I said, I knew going to college that I wanted to be self-employed. I didn't know in what direction. So like I thought, okay, if I did business management classes, I would get the management end of things down. If I did a finance background behind it, like maybe I would have a better chance of not being ripped off if you understood the numbers of the business. You see a lot of businesses where the business owner ends up getting taken advantage of. I don't think they understand their numbers. But in those classes, there kept just being this underlying background behind some of the people that were studying was like, hey, this person did X with their career, but where they made the majority of their money was in their real estate holdings. And like that was just such a common theme and all these people were learning about that I was like, well, wait a second. These people's businesses are great, but the underlying between all of them
is they made more freaking money as a byproduct of the real estate.
Right.
Yeah.
And even if you look at some of the bigger companies now, like not trying to like go down a rabbit hole, but like is Macy's a department store or is Macy's a landlord?
McDonald's.
Are
they
fill
a
in the
food
blank
company or a real estate
fill
company?
in the blank.
Yeah,
like,
right.
So that was my takeaway. My takeaway was, okay, owning my own business is great, but what I need to do is I need to own real estate. That's kind of where it came from. So my original thought was, it was more about, hey, this process was pretty straightforward. I understand the process. I understand going and negotiating with people, negotiating terms, and then figuring out the math on cash flow, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, it was just like, at least in the beginning, which is different because it took a different shift later. But like I was just like fired out of a cannon. Like I was just like, I sent out these letters, people were contacting me, I'm negotiating with them in real time, and then I'll buy it. And then I paused. I had to pause. Like when I got to 10, very quickly. And then some of the stuff started happening where like, I was hands off. I was at college. I was still partying. I was still like going out with my friends and being responsible for people's housing at the same time. It was a weird mix. It was a weird blend.
It is.
And then I was like, oh, wait a second. Now I've got 10 different buildings that need repairs and things like that. And so like that was like, wait a second. Now I need to pause. Like maybe I don't need to go out and buy 50 properties without a game plan on like, what if I need 50 roofs today or 50 heaters? Like, I'm grand opening, grand closing. Like, I'm now out of business. So there was no really math behind it. It was just about, let me try to see what I could do. Let me try to see what I can acquire quickly. And then it was more of like a pause. All right, now I got to go back and make sure that the places that I've already bought are functioning and nice and working,
wild,
et cetera, et cetera. So it was definitely a find out during kind of thing.
Well, it's funny. A lot of times that's the way that things shake out, even when you are a very analytical and planning type person. You still don't know what you don't know until you're in it,
right?
100%. So it's like, that's why I love what you said of just going into something and being like, yeah, I don't know how this is going to work out. I don't know if I'm going to have to work for free for 30 days, but I'm going to figure it out.
I'm going to figure it out.
It's incredible.
That's the one thing I always look. I know you have the same thing because I see what you're doing. Like the one thing that I will say is, you put me in any situation, I will figure it out.
That's right.
I don't care what I have to do to figure it out. I will figure it out. Like, and sometimes the harder part is like being older now and having a family, having kids. Like I question if I could do the same thing today, and it would be harder because like I feel like those responsibilities make it definitely different. Because at the time when I'm 2021. Like even if I had gone bankrupt theoretically, like I could come back from that. I'd have time to come back from that. Like, now I don't know that I'd have that same mentality, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You get to a point where I think my problem is now is almost the polar opposite of that. Now I'm like in this like analysis paralysis phase where I'm analyzing deals to like such an extent that at the end of the day, it slows me down. I'm not acting as fast. And like, that's what I'm going back now. And I'm saying, like I was just talking to my wife recently. I'm like, I need to be more, in a way, I need to be more like I was at 20 and just be like, okay, let's do it. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. Instead of like this like cautionary, like let's crunch numbers 5 million times. Let's go through everything that may possibly go wrong until the fact that you either talk yourself out of it or you just have this, the house sold because you just didn't do anything.
Yeah, right.
Somebody else came in behind you and was like, I'll take it. I'll figure it out. Like,
Exactly.
You need to find some sort of balance either between the two or whatever, or just like jump in. And we talked about this morning where it's like people telling themselves all the time, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And it's like, yeah, if you tell yourself a million times you can't do something, guess what? You're right.
You're absolutely
You're not going to do it.
Yeah.
Where if you just kind of roll the dice a little bit, I'm not saying like do stuff that's like completely risky or makes
don't go out and take
no
uncalculated
sense.
risk with no thought process behind it.
Right.
But
At the same time, you have to be like speed.
Yeah.
Speed is what will help you.
Speed is very important. Dude, it's such like an interesting concept. Like I like to equate what you just explained to like video games in the sense that what got you from level 1 to level 2 and level 2 to level 3 and level 3 to level 4, the skills that were required to get past those levels, beat those bosses, it changes, right?
Yeah.
You need different skills to get from level 4 to level 5.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So it's not like everything is just
always
always like trending in a linear pattern. It's like you get to level 4 and it might be like, oh my God, I don't have any of the skills necessary to get to level 5, right? So it seems like I'm down because I'm just getting my ass kicked nonstop, constantly.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to go back to level 1.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, my skill sets are well beyond level 1, but I'm getting my way at level 5 because I'm expecting to do the same thing.
That's right.
And it's not the same.
Super, super interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So back to that point of financing. So saying that you kind of paused a little bit at 10 properties, is that because you were also doing like conventional loans and you were doing them in your name, or were they in an LLC or?
No, a lot of the stuff I bought in my regular name.
Okay.
Yeah, because at the time I didn't know any different. Like I said, I didn't have a mentor or anything, and getting into like I think at the time getting into like commercial financing or whatever, if I did an LLC, like it just would have been outside my depth of understanding.
Gotcha.
At that point.
So you were just going to a bank and you were like, hey, I already own a primary and I want to buy another property.
Yeah. And again, like the mortgage programs understandably are much different now. Like this was the wild, wild west. They were like, do you have a pulse? We'll give you money. you know?
It is funny to think about, even though you had good income at the time and everything, it's funny to think about like a kid that's in college going and buying multiple properties.
Oh yeah.
You know, it sounds
when I look at
crazy.
it now, it is kind of crazy. Like, and I never lost any. I've never made a late payment on anything in my entire life. But a lot of people lost houses that they bought at that time. You know, hence the mortgage meltdown. Like, there were definitely a lot of risky loans out there. I benefited from like just having the wherewithal to like protect myself a little bit. You know, like as much as I was out there buying, probably if somebody said, hey, I'm going to start investing today, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy 10 properties right after one after another. I'd be like, even though that's what I did.
Yep.
You know, in hindsight, was it the brightest thing to do? Probably not. But what it was bright was stopping at 10 and not going for more and more and more. You know, I heard at the time, like people were buying literally hundreds of houses.
Right.
And all of a sudden, like moving forward, like I remember I got contacted once by a bank that said like, hey, we just took over, somebody foreclosed on 300 houses in Chester. I was like, good Lord.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
You know, like that's the hard part. You grow so fast, so quick. And it's like, you know, you can stumble if you're not like, you need to be quick, but then also calculated at the same time. And sometimes I feel like those things don't always go hand in hand.
Absolutely, man. And it's tough because a lot of times, again, to that point of you don't know what you don't know, right? And it's like, I've seen a lot of guys come out of the gate like, you know, like crazy, whether we're talking about buying rentals, buying flips, wholesaling,
whatever,
it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah.
It's like just massive growth right at the start. And it's like, you haven't experienced hard times yet.
Yeah.
You will. And
undoubtedly.
you know, it's like, it's a lot more digestible to get punched in the mouth once when you have a couple things going on, right? It's
Sure.
like when you get punched in the mouth and you have like basically this house of cards because you don't really have a foundation, you don't have structure yet because you have not experienced hard times.
Yeah.
Like those waves will come.
They will.
You know?
They are very humbling very quickly. Like I have felt much smarter than I really am. And then the world will remind you that you still have things to learn.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that happens. It sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks. But like you learn so much more through that, or at least I do.
Yeah.
Like I learn so much more through struggle or setbacks than when like everything's going great and you're like, I can never lose.
Yeah.
Like
It's funny how that works too, you know?
You don't learn a lot during those periods.
Nope.
You learn a lot during the struggles.
Dude. What was your first like real estate struggle that you really felt that was kind of like, oh crap, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was?
My first flip, I mean, I got in, you know, it's interesting as an agent, you see it a lot with agents. So as agents, we're always, you know, we're helping investors so much, and you can only help so many investors before you're like, why don't I just
I can do this too.
I can
Yeah.
do this too,
Yeah.
you know? And the first flip I ever did, lost money, like coming to, like spending all of that time, all of that energy, all of that money, and having to come to closing with a check to pay off a balance. That was a hard lesson. Like, oh, maybe this isn't as easy as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
You know, maybe HGTV made it seem a little simplified.
Yeah.
So that was a humbling experience, having to cut a check. That sucked. You know. But you hope. I made a video the other day about flooring. You know, like about buying, making sure you have the right die lot. It was stupid, but it's a mistake that I made. It's a mistake that you hope you only make once. You know, like cutting that check. Fortunately, was a mistake I only made once. Like you learn and go, okay, maybe I should have not run my numbers as tight as I did. Maybe I shouldn't have thought we were going to move this thing in a mere moments in time. Like maybe I should have equated for any surprise.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And I wouldn't have been caught off guard. Now, on the same side, I'm glad that I did it because it was like it put the ball in motion.
Yeah.
You know, I would have preferred a win, but maybe it was better that I started with a loss.
Yeah, there's something to
hindsight.
be said about that too, because it
hindsight.
humbled you out of the gate and made you think of things that you otherwise wouldn't have thought of if you just won and made money.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, it's like a hard knocks kind of lesson. Like, okay, all right, how do I not do this again? How do I not make this mistake again?
Do you remember what were like some key takeaways from that first one? Because obviously you went on and did more after that, right? So was it like just be more conservative with your numbers? Was it related to the construction?
It was construction related. It was timing related. And it also had to do with other people, right? So like at the time I was doing one property. This was in Fallcroft. I was doing one property. I had a partner, but at the same token, I knew another person that bought literally, I don't know what the exact number was, but I'm going to say it was around 50, bought 50 row homes in Fallcroft to flip.
At the same time?
Just about at the same time, yeah. Very close to the same time. And what I failed to realize was that flooding the market with 50 flips at one time was not going to benefit him, and it wasn't going to benefit me either.
Good point.
Here, like at the time, I think, again, being younger and whatever, I was like, oh, wow, we're going to turn this whole neighborhood around. It's like, yeah, well, like supply and demand, dum-dum. Like, how many people want a fully renovated property in Fallcroft in the same month?
That's right.
You know, so we went out right about when he went out, give or take, and he went out with not all 50 at the same time because it was a work in progress for him, but he maybe listed 5 or 10 at one time. We listed our one, and all of a sudden you don't have 11 buyers that are all looking for that. So if we were more, I think at the time, if we had understood the construction better, maybe we could have done things to maybe beat them to the punch, maybe, but more about realizing that following another investor or a bunch of investors, but in this case, one investor that was buying so much was a detriment to all of us. You know, that was unsustainable for all of us. And I think he got hurt on it too. Like
really?
I think he turned quite a few into rentals because it just wasn't there. That market was not there at that point.
Around what time was that?
Gun in my head. 05?
Okay.
Maybe, give or take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Something like that. But
So, all right. So you're still in college. You graduate college.
Yep.
You got like your 10 properties and everything.
Yep.
And then what'd you do from there?
Yeah. So I became a real estate agent, and the way that happened was, so that very first property I bought off a friend of mine. So a friend of mine's older brothers owned a construction company, and they were doing flips. I think this might have been at the time one of their first flips, but they had a very well-established company, well-respected company, and they were leaning towards getting out of dealing with consumers and then just getting into the flips because they could control that narrative a little bit more. I think working for homeowners can be draining at times.
For sure.
So anyway, again, just dumb luck. I was just driving down the street the one day and I saw their gang box in the front yard and it had their name spray painted on it. And so I called my friend that I went to high school with and just said, "Hey, are you guys working on a house of media? Are you working on like a flip or something?" And he said, "Yeah, my brothers are flipping this house." And I said, "Do you know what they want for it?" He told me, and I was like, "I'll take it. I'll buy it." And so like that was my first house. But from that point, one of the brothers lived on that same street. And so he knew that I was buying rentals. He knew some of the other stuff. And he just came up to me one day when we were like outside. And he said, like, "What are you going to do when you graduate from college?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm still up in the air about it. I haven't decided." And he was like, "Look, we hate our real estate agent. And if you would want and got your real estate license, we'll hire you today." And I was like, interesting. And at that point, it was kind of a while. It was a year. So I guess I bought that house sophomore year. So this would have been senior. So it was about 2 years. And during that 2 years, they started to do about 25 houses, give or take a year.
Okay.
In flips. And during this time period, it was really hard to get a house. You know, it was during that early 2000s period where things were flying, kind of a little bit similar to where we're coming from now. But so he said, "If you get a real estate license, we're going to do two things. I'll be your client, but I want to be your only client. And so I will pay you a salary separate from real estate for you to come into my office every day, and you will be our real estate agent in office." And so that's how I started. So I graduated from Westchester on Saturday, I think it was. Saturday was our commencement or whatever. And I was in his office on Monday morning.
No crap.
Yeah. In hindsight, like, dude, can you just give yourself like a week? You know? Do we have to be in such a rush all the time?
You're not wired that way, man. Not wired that way.
You know, in hindsight, a week would have been nice. But yeah, I gave myself Sunday and I was at work on Monday morning. I worked for them for years. Like I said, we did about 20, 25 houses a year.
Okay.
I worked in their construction office. I would do like other stuff for them because he was paying me, you know, so if there weren't houses to take a look at, I would help them with other stuff. But really my primary job was to be like, just going through the MLS all day long and jumping on things as soon as they hit. Because at that time period, if you weren't in the house in a couple hours, it was gone. Yep. Especially for flips and stuff. So they basically paid me to be their on-site, on-call real estate agent.
I love it, man.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. I remember the day that I was let go because they were really good at kind of reading the market. And before the mortgage meltdown stuff happened, he was like, "There's just something going on in the market. I don't love it. Something feels off. I think we want to sell what we have, and I think we're going to pause." And I was like, "Really?" And at the time, like, I knew obviously you're going to settlement and people are getting 3 loans at one time. Like, it was crazy in that regard. But yeah, he just kind of read the tea leaves and he was like, "I don't want to get hurt. We've done well. Let's take a pause and let's see where things go." And he came into my office and said, "Hey, if you didn't work for us, what would you do?" And I thought we were just doing this hypothetical, like, I was like, "I don't know." Like, and he's like, "Well, you should find out." And I was like, oh, this is like a real conversation. I thought we were playing like what ifs.
Yeah, well, we're just doing a role play here.
Yeah. You meant like for real. Like, and he just said, "Yeah, we're going to go back and start going back to our regular construction business. There's just something in the market that feels weird to me. I don't like it. And I'm just going to trust my instincts. I'm going to pause." And it was not that long after that the whole market kind of fell apart.
Shit.
And he completely dodged a bullet.
Wow.
Completely dodged a bullet.
Wow. So what did you end up doing in that time period?
I just started doing just real estate full-time anyway. Like I was already doing it full-time just for him, but I just started to take on more and more customers outside of that. Like,
buyers and sellers.
buyers and
for
sellers.
Like retail, like, or was it investor clients or?
It was a little bit of
mix?
everything at that point. You know,
Okay.
because I basically worked solely for just one investor. So, you know, from that point, I just was at that point working with other investors and things. And then, you know, I think it was probably around that same time period, give or take, that I started to try to tackle working with banks and stuff.
Okay.
And that was a
building
total
those relationships.
Yeah, like I just I remember I was listening to somebody talk about pillars, and they were like, you need 4 different pillars of income, like, so that if one pillar stops producing, you're not totally dead in the water. And so I looked at like my retail business as one pillar. I looked at my rental business as one pillar. And I was like, what could be two other pillars in this situation? So I thought at the time, well, banks were like, normally I'm trying to go after one client, and like, if you're good at your job as a real estate agent, you're constantly unemployed, right? I mean, like, I helped find you a house, now I'm unemployed again. I helped sell your house, now I'm unemployed again.
Yep.
So I thought, that's great, but what if I could find a client that if I could sell them one time, that it could produce moving forward? And so I started going after banks at that point and started to do like a lot of grunt work for banks as they put you through the paces of getting their business, if you will.
Yeah, so you've told me a little bit about some of this stuff that I was surprised by, that I never knew that side of the industry, right? Like when I first started flipping, I was buying bank-owned stuff off the MLS all the time and everything.
Yeah.
But like you said that sometimes you would have to foot the expenses for the properties that you were listing for banks, right?
Yeah, so like starting out, like when I first started, I didn't like, obviously everybody wants that business, or everybody did. I don't know about now, but everybody did, because you figured like, okay, if you get one bank, that bank could supply you with 25 listings a year, 50 listings a year. I don't know. Like it could be as much as they get, you know?
Yeah.
And that was during a more normal time. So you had a healthier market. It sounds weird to say that foreclosures are healthy, but it is a healthier part of the market where you have people going through different things all at the same time. So anyway, so when I first started signing up with the banks, like I would get like grunt work, like I said, like you get like what would be referred to as like property condition reports. Property condition report would just be somebody falls behind on their mortgage and they're immediately sending somebody by the house to drive by. I think about it a lot still, because like I see people that post on Facebook today, you know, obviously technology is a lot different now than it was back when I started this. So like people will take pictures of people taking pictures of their house from the Ring cameras, and I'll see it on like community pages a lot. And it'll just say like, who is this person taking a picture of my house, blah, 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 blah. And I'll just like, sometimes I don't engage because I just don't feel like it, like getting involved with like strangers fights on the internet and stuff. But like sometimes I'll just politely like DM somebody and just say like, hey, have you missed a mortgage payment recently? Like it could be that. It could be your insurance. Yeah. It could be anything. Who knows? But so like, when people would miss their payments, they would send me out and I would do a property condition report. And it would just say, you know, basically they're trying to figure out where are you, not mentally, that sounds weird, but like, are you still cutting your lawn? Are you still taking out your trash? Or have you abandoned the property? They need to know how quickly or not to move the process along. Should they try to work with you? Should they not try to work with you? You know, are you already gone? Should we fast track this whole process so we don't have just some vacant house sitting there, et cetera, et cetera. So I did those. I know this sounds crazy. I did those for almost 10 years without a single listing.
Really?
Yeah. 10 years.
Wait, what do you mean? Like for one bank specifically?
No,
or?
for a bunch. For a bunch. I was just like, because look, if they're happy with their realtor that they're working with, there's not an opening. Like they're not just testing out people, you know, for the most part. Like you need the person before you to mess up or quit or retire or whatever. So like, but during that time period, there's other work that they need done that they're not always like, they're not going to ask their regular agent to do all the time. So it's just, I look at it like almost like a hazing project. It was just a hazing that took longer than anticipated.
Yeah, that's a very long hazing.
It was
period.
a long time. But I just I thought about it like I said, I'll figure it out. Like that's kind of my motto. I will figure it out. I don't give a shit. And so with that, I just figured like, I instead of looking in a negative way, I looked at it like, look, I'm going into neighborhoods that maybe I wouldn't be in every single day. I'm looking at these houses that maybe I wouldn't have seen. Like I used it as like an information gathering session more than anything else. And I did that for a long time. And then my wife and I scheduled a vacation with a friend of ours to go to Miami. And I told her, it was just ironic timing. I was like, look, I've been doing these for 10 years. Like, I don't think that this is going to work. This is not something, I'm waiting for my place in line. My number's not getting called. And it's like, when we get back, I'm just going to tell them, like, I'm done. I've had enough. And I swear to God, it was like a scene out of a movie. That night, I got a phone call for my first listing.
No way.
We were leaving at like 6 o'clock in the morning from Miami. I got the call at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night, and the property was in Parksburg. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. And the person said, hey, we got this listing for you. And I was like, I'm going to be boarding a plane at 6 a.m. They're like, great, well, we'll just go to the next agent in line. I was like, the fuck you will.
Yeah, right?
No, I will figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know. So I drove to Parksburg at night, and I was like, part of me, I was just like, I hope it's vacant. Like, I need, like, I don't have a lot of time. They didn't give you that
information?
They don't know. They don't always know. So I drove to that property. I had to pull my car into the driveway, put my high beams on, and take pictures of it and submit it that night because I had to have photos that I went with. You usually have 24 hours to get to a property. So I had to get there within 24 hours. So I'm sending them photos from nighttime with my car lights pointed on it. And that's how I got my first listing. And it was
crap.
And I was like, and then from there it was like the floodgates opened up. I think they just needed to give me one, and then it was that. And then all of the other grunt work, I'd never got another request for it ever again.
No shit. But so all that grunt work.
So somebody else had gotten my grunt work, I guess.
But you were getting paid for that, right?
I mean, it's minuscule. Like, it was, the property condition report at the time was $25.
Okay.
So you're not doing it for the month. Like, I wasn't like, oh, cool, $25 or $50 or whatever. There was a time during Sandy. Sandy was different. So during Sandy, they gave me, at the time, because they weren't sure, they needed to know what kind of damage everybody took.
Sure.
So at that point, I got called. I forget how many we did. My wife had to take off from work. I remember that because they were like, we need you to go check on every asset that's behind. And I was like, oh, okay, great, no problem. Like, I'll do it. And I was like, how many are you talking about? They're like, pick the town. And I was like, what? Like, do you want media? I was like, yeah, I'll do media. They're like, cool, there's 50. I was like, oh. I was like, you want Brookhaven? I was like, how many are in Brookhaven? They're like, 45. I'm like, okay. Aston?
I'll take them all.
I did. I took them all. And my wife and I drove around. We were in the car. I think you'd have to ask. She has a better memory than mine. My memory sucks. I think we were in the car for like 2-ish days, just driving around. She had a notepad and paper. We're trying to write down what numbers go with which property because I did hundreds. We did hundreds in 2 days. That's crazy. And I remember at the time, my broker who I worked for, he never really cared so much about most agents are on a split or whatever. And like at the time, it was like, he wasn't taking a split at $25.
Right,
like,
right.
Who needs it? Like,
well, and it's not a listing.
It's not.
Yeah.
But it is income coming in, whatever.
Okay.
But I remember we got a check, and he was like, I think the first check that came in from that one was like $10,000. And he was like, what's this? And I was like, I did a lot of property
condition reports, man.
I did hundreds, and he was like, what is going on? I was like, this is just a unique one-off situation.
We're still not doing a split, man.
This is just from a one-off time.
Yeah.
But yeah, after I got that first listing, I never got another one. I never got another property condition report. I guess that went to like the next person in line. And then from there, it was all just off the races. And so, to answer, I keep taking like 20 minutes to answer.
No, dude, there was so much gold in there also.
From there, I think once you get one and you can prove you can do it, then you start getting a lot more. And then from there, once you start getting more, then obviously you attract investors because investors are like, oh, wait, you get the bank foreclosure.
Yeah.
And then I started getting contact. I got some hedge fund clients from there because hedge funds, like, it's all about speed to lead, right? Like, how much closer to the transaction can we get? And so I think a lot of people looked at me as like, look, if the property's getting through the sheriff sale process, then I'm now the person that they need to be contacting. Yeah. So that's kind of how that took off. So you get one, and then one kind of turns into many. Because I think even with like people leaving bank, like I don't work in that world, but like you would say you are my rep from Citibank or whatever, and then you leave, you go to Bank of America. Well, you're taking your book of people you trust with you. So now I'm in Bank of America system. Now I'm in this system. Now, it kind of like spreads in that regard. And then, like I said, that you end up getting local investors, you end up getting hedge funds, and like that kind of takes on a whole different world. Going back to your original question, what I found out quickly was it's kind of a be careful what you wish for thing, because their anticipation is that you are going to be floating all expenses. So at the time when you first start out, I'm like, oh, this is no problem. Like, it's fine. I'll pick up some water bills. I'll pick up some Pico bills. Like, who cares? And then you get like a back tax bill. You're like, oh, well, this is more sizable. Or like a water lien in Philly. I remember we had like a $13,000 water lien in Philly.
Yeah, it's a big deal, especially if you got a couple of them.
You can cut that. I'm like, okay. So like when I talk to agents now, and agents are like, I want to get in bank foreclosures, I would say like get a line of credit, get something available to you, because like there'd be times where I'd have $50,000 in bank expenses or more on the street, especially during like renovations, and like I don't know if it was just to insulate them, why they had me.
Yeah, it's super interesting to think about from that angle also. Like, what is their? It's got to just be for accounting purposes.
I think it's just insulation or accounting, like to maybe the speed, because they're not very quick to pay. Is it incentive?
Is it just like, oh, well, like if you're
free bookkeeper
wanting to, that I mean, too. Yeah.
The amount of time I would spend paying bills, like you have 50 listings, that's 50 Aqua accounts, it's 50 Pico bills. It's like it's a lot. It's a lot of just administration work.
So just because I'm curious on that now, my brain's going. So as soon as they decide to give you a listing, are you putting utilities in your name?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's not even that they're staying in their name and the bill's coming to you and you're paying it. You're putting utilities in your name.
My personal name.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, most of them, I think a lot of them won't. Like if you call and you're like, oh, put this in Citibank, they'll be no. Because they know they're like, what's the recourse?
They might not get paid. Yeah.
Their lawyers are better than your lawyers.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah. So they're, and most of them pay within 90 days for the most part. I got burned by one company.
Really?
It wasn't, in hindsight, it was like a couple grand or whatever it was. But like, they went out of business and they owed me money and I never got paid.
No crap.
But
is that because the property also never sold? Like,
no, they just went out of business. No, they just went out of business. That one, like, that one was for other stuff. It wasn't for utilities and stuff. It was for like other things that they had me, whatever it was. I forget.
Okay.
Like it was a lawn service or some nonsense or whatever. And they just went out of business and that was the end of it. Just never got paid.
Gotcha.
But yeah, for the most part, it wasn't that. Like it was just, but you're just on some 90 day delay.
But so they would put you on like net 90 regardless of whether the property sold or not?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You have to have your expenses in with a timely fashion. Like it was like within 30 days. And if you miss it, you're done. They won't pay you. Like
no crap.
Yeah. There's no leniency.
Wow.
Like, it's just like, you miss your deadline. That one's going to be on you. So again, mistakes that you don't make twice.
Yeah. You learn. Yeah.
You learn a lot faster when you pay money. Yeah, and it's just interesting. It's an interesting caveat to that world that I didn't know. And so, like, usually when I'm talking to agents, like, I think I want to get into it. I'm like, how much money do you have readily available to you that you can let someone else use for free and just get paid 90 days later?
Yeah.
Like, there's no benefit. You're not getting paid. There's no spread. You're not like, oh, I made 10% on that, or whatever. Like, it's just literally a task for free to do.
So the $1 million question is it worth it?
It's a fair question. I would say before COVID, 50% of my income came from bank foreclosures. Okay. So I had it pretty even where 50% came from bank foreclosures, 50% came from non. That went to zero during COVID because of the eviction moratorium, which is I have different opinions about. It's starting to pick up a little bit, not a lot. Like I'm going to a property today I told you about in Philadelphia. I struggle with it because, like I got into this business originally to help people. And I originally also got into bank foreclosure work because I thought not only is it consistent money, which is great, but I felt as if the people that were in that world that were like the go-to bank foreclosure people were a little cold, a little jaded. And I felt like you're already catching people on their worst day.
Yeah.
Like you can be a human about it. I get it, like towards the end, having done it for a number of years, like it does get to you a little bit. Most of the time I feel like when people get into that kind of financial struggle, it gets a little easier to blame everybody else besides yourself. I think that's just human nature. I think it's really hard for people to realize like, hey, maybe I made a mistake here.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you did this to me. And so like it can grind on you a little bit. I found myself in some dangerous situations doing that.
I'm sure.
Because you're not catching people on the best days of their lives. So I don't know. I do it occasionally now. Like I've gotten a few, but I went from doing 25, 40 a year to like 1, 2, like it's trickling. I mean, and of course, like real estate values skyrocketed.
Of
so
course.
like, even if you were behind, and that's great. Like, look, more power to you. Like, I don't want people to get foreclosed on. So like, even people that fell behind on their mortgages, like their property value was increasing more than the mortgage. So like they could still get out of it by selling.
They're not underwater.
To an investor or whatever and walking away and wiping their hands clean, which is great. If the opportunity presented itself, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm still working on these one-offs for now. The first one I got after the eviction moratorium was lifted was a property that had been vacant for years.
Okay.
So like there was no harm, no foul with that. This one's it's a mixed use. So it's the one in Philly is it's a bar on the first floor and a tenant on the second floor. We're negotiating a lease with the second floor person, so they're going to stay. And the bar has been out of business for a number of years. So there's really no harm, no foul with that. Can I shift back and go back to doing it the way that I was doing it before? I don't know. I struggle with that a lot. And having been in dangerous situations more than a couple times, again, kind of like we talked about in the beginning, having kids now, like it brings a lot into perspective. Like, I would roll with it before. I've had more than a handful of guns pointed to my face. Like, is it a situation that I love? No. Have I been able to talk my way out of it? Yes. Like, what does that look like now with kids? I don't know that I feel like going back down that road.
What was the first time that happened? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, I'm
sure you do.
I do. Yeah, you don't forget those types of things. The first time was my own fault, non-real estate related. I'll skip that one. Working hours was actually not a foreclosure thing. The working hours was I just happened to be in the wrong section of Chester trying to show a house like that. And this is the funny thing is now, so I tinted my windows the day after this happened, and I continue to tint my windows to this day. And people are like, "Why are your windows so dark?" And it's like, get a gun put in your face. You're gonna get your windows tinted. But I was showing a house on the west end of Chester, and I just was young and arrogant and whatever, and thought like, what's gonna happen? Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen? And I pulled up outside of the house that I was supposed to show, and it was very obvious that the people in front of me were dealing drugs. And I was just like, so what? I'm not here to buy drugs. Yeah. I'm not a cop. What's the difference? Like, I'm going to ignore them. They'll ignore me. But I was sitting in a fishbowl because my windows weren't tinted. And they decided not to ignore me. And at the time, I think I was even wearing like a full suit. And it's just a very weird thing. So the guy comes up to my car and he knocks on the window. And I look at him. I just kind of shake my head no. Like, because I think, like, I'm not here to buy drugs, man. Like,
Yeah.
You do you. I'm going to just no.
Not a cop, but I'm not here to buy drugs.
Just shook my head no. He knocks on the window again. And I'm like, just shaking my head no. I'm like, no. And then he pulled out a gun and he tapped on the window a third time. And I rolled the window down about this much. And I was like, can I help you? And he was like, are you a cop? And I just started laughing. And I was like, what? I was like, wait, so you think I'm a cop and your first instinct is to knock on my driver's side window with a gun? I was like, no, dude, I'm a real estate agent. Just a real estate. I said, I'm here to show that house. Like, that's all I'm here to do. And he was like, you have 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes. I was like, okay.
Did you show the house?
I did show the house. And I was shaking like a leaf. My adrenaline was going nuts. I couldn't stop shaking. And I kept going over to the window. I kept looking out the window. And the guy was like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just looking out the window. He goes, you watching your car? And I was like, sure. Yeah, I'm watching my car. He goes, watch mine too. I'll look at the house by myself. I was like, okay. We're wrapping up. And he's like, I'll call you from the car. I don't want to stand outside and talk about this house.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. We both got in our cars and drove away. And he's like, there's no way that neighborhood's terrifying.
Yeah.
And I was like, you don't say.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I went and I got my windows tinted the next day.
Wow.
On a foreclosure side, shifting gears to like how I got started on that. So I had this house in Glen Mills. And when I was doing those drive-bys, like leading up to it, the guy had like all these cars, like beautiful cars just in his driveway. And it was so confusing to me. Like I remember he had like a BMW 7 Series, he had a Porsche, he had a Hummer, he had like all these different cars. And after the eviction went through and I had to go deliver the notice, I drove to the house and I went and knocked on the door and a gentleman's wife answered. And I said, hey, you know, I would always start with like a mild joke to like kind of, I'm like, don't shoot the messenger. Like, you know, and she's like, what? And I'm like, all I have is this piece of paper. Like, I just started to let you know the house has been foreclosed on, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, you're wrong. There's no way. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it just is what it is. It turned out, in hindsight, that the husband was having all of the mail sent to his business address. So the wife literally had no idea. So that day, she was upset. She called her husband. She's like, my husband's on the way home. I was like, no problem. It's fine. I turn around, like a couple minutes later, whatever it was. This dude's doing like 80 miles an hour down Forge Road in Glen Mills. And I was like, uh-oh. Pulled in the driveway, super hot. He was just like in my face in 2 seconds, screaming. And I'm like, dude, like, relax.
Again,
relax,
yeah, I'm the messenger.
Just the messenger. And I kind of said to him at the time, I'm like, look, you can shoot me. Or no, I guess I'm jumping ahead a little bit. So I'm trying to calm him down, whatever. And then he pulled out a gun. And I'm like, look, dude, you can shoot me. And the bank won't care. They're going to send another person with another piece of paper and another person. And I was like, you can keep killing people one after another. They're just going to keep sending people. Like, there's no way out. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And so he kind of calmed down a little bit once I kind of explained it to him like that. Again, I'm nervous as shit, like in this situation. And so like I'm just trying to get him to talk. So I'm just like, what do you do for a living, man? And so he goes, I repossess cars for a living. And then that's when I lost it. I was like, wait a fucking minute here. Sorry for cursing. Wait a minute. So you're trying to tell me that you have a gun because your job is to repossess other people's assets. Mm-hmm. And you want to defend yourself in the event of, while you're doing your job, that somebody comes out and wants to threaten you. And here we are now, and I'm doing that. And
I'm doing that same thing that you do.
You are being the person that you are afraid of at your job.
Yep.
And he said, I'm sorry. And I was like, okay. You know, and why? I don't know. I don't think in the moment, I think that my anger over him telling me like that's why he had it kind of superseded
your fear
risk
at the
or
time.
Fear.
Yeah.
Because I just was so frustrated.
I get it.
Like, you are literally me for a living. Just you deal with cars, I deal with houses.
Yeah.
Other than that, our jobs are pretty darn similar.
Yep.
And you're going to, you have this thing for protection, but now you're using it in the way that you're trying to protect yourself from at your job. And that's
scary, dude.
And that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he apologized. And to be honest, from there, like, it was really like, from starting out in that place to where we ended, like, it turned out to be like a super smooth foreclosure. He didn't fight it. He packed up his stuff. He didn't damage the place. He left. I think he just needed that moment. And I think him and his wife probably had a very hard conversation about the fact that he hit the finances and yada, 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 yada. And he still lives locally. I still, like, it is what it is. I never called the police. I didn't feel like it was, like, I felt like I needed to give him a little bit of grace in that time period. Like, again, looking back on it now, if I was in that same situation today, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, would I think differently in the situation and like thinking about my kids and my wife and stuff? Like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's an avenue I want to continue to go down or not, you know, in that situation. I struggle with it.
It's tough.
I haven't been in this scenario like necessarily. Well, I mean, with that commercial, that mixed use property, like that one, I just had to post it again. We talked about this a little bit off camera. Like, I posted it again last week, and while I was posting it, the door opened. Like, I don't know what I'm getting. What am I getting? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
who's opening that door?
That's right.
What are they thinking? What are they thinking of me? What am I? You know, and my job has changed obviously because of cameras. Like, that house had a Ring doorbell, so she knew I was coming.
Yep.
You know, pre-COVID, I don't think Ring doorbells were as prevalent, or cameras certainly weren't as prevalent. So like I was at times able to do parts of my job in a way that I was able to like limit my risk. Now people can see you coming from a mile away.
So thinking of that, like, what is your responsibility there? Like, is it just to post a notice? Because in that situation where you said you posted and the guy was coming home and he's flying down the road, like, did you have to stay? Did you have to interact with him? Or could you just post it and be like, I'm going to boogie, I'm out?
Yeah, I mean, my job was done. I had what I need to do is, like, in that situation, just even from this past week, like, they send me a docket. They send me dockets that I need to post on the door so people can say, like, they can't say, hey, I didn't get it.
Yeah, it's there.
It's there.
You have
notice. So I had to do that. I have to take date stamp photos, and then I submit it. So, yeah, I mean, in that case, I could have just posted it and took a picture of it. You know, again, trying to come from a standpoint of trying to be different or better,
trying to be
or whatever,
a decent human,
is what ultimately led to me
bit you in the ass, and being in that
sucks.
Situation. Yeah, because it's like I kind of went above and beyond to try to maybe explain this to somebody, and this is what I get as a result of it.
As a result, yeah. So it's hard. It's hard. It's an interesting world to be a part of because I know I've said it before. You're catching people on a bad day. Everybody's got a story. Like you have a story. I have a story. Yep. We all have. Like,
that's right.
I think trying to understand where people are coming from, and I don't know. Everybody's got their own situation. So like when you get to people, like you're trying to deal with them, you're trying to help them, you're trying to navigate a tough situation, but like things might happen that they feel like isn't their responsibility, whatever. Like trying to deal with people and reason with people that may not be in a reasonable state.
That's right.
Is very difficult.
That's absolutely right, man. And we have the same thing, obviously, like in the wholesale business, right? It's like every single transaction that we do, we're dealing with people that are in some sort of a situation, right? And it's like, it's not just a situation. It's like, it was a compounding effect of many things that went wrong. And like here we are. Yeah. And a lot of times that frustration comes out on us.
100%. Yeah. You're like, I'm here, I'm trying to help, but in helping, you may also take your anger and direct it at me because I'm an easy target because I'm right here in front of your face and it's not pointing a light back at you.
That's right. That's right, man.
So,
and it's some of the foreclosure stuff. Like we just had one like a year ago that we were under contract on this property and they were facing foreclosure, right? So they're coming up against this like the actual deadline date. They're going to lose the house and everything. And they're dragging their feet. They're not, submitting everything to title. We can't do what we need to do and everything. Yeah. And ultimately, we got to the 11th hour, literally the day of, of the auction, and we postponed it that day.
Okay,
we got it done.
You got to stay.
And as a result of that, like in attorney fees and bank fees and everything, dude, it ended up costing them like an extra $18,000 to extend this. Yeah. And they're mad at me. Yeah. It's like you were about to lose everything, and we jumped through every hoop that there was to get this postponed for you and everything. And you're mad at us that you lost $18,000. It's like, that's not my fault. Yeah. You would have lost everything. At least you're still able to walk away at settlement with whatever they got, $30,000 or something. Yeah. You were going to walk with nothing. Yeah. But
I think it's hard for people to like, I don't know. My mind doesn't work this way, and neither does yours. So like, it's hard for me to understand, but I think for a lot of people, like they just would rather not face the problem.
That's right.
Like I think before, I'm sure maybe the numbers have changed, maybe they haven't, but like 50% of people that went through foreclosure never called their bank one single time. Not one time.
That's interesting.
Not one time. Like, because during that time period, if you remember, people were doing loan mods. Like I knew people that were getting 40-year loans on the back end or like very limited percentages because the banks don't want your house. They just want you to pay, So when you're meeting with people and it's just like, I think that's how things snowball. Like they don't communicate. They don't talk to anybody. They let the balance get behind and then you start getting hit with attorney fees, late charges, everything else. And then what could have been a little bit of easier problem becomes this massive problem.
Right.
And you're still not communicating with people.
Yep.
You're still not communicating with people. And it's like, look, you're going to have some hard conversations. You are. It sucks, man. Yep. But like the people that you're calling aren't like, haha, you're not like, they're not there to make fun of you or like point out. They're there to say like, okay, cool. Here we are. Let's figure it out. What can we do to figure it out? And look, maybe at the end of the day, the figuring out is you're still going to lose the house, but maybe you could do it in a way like Maybe you do a deed in lieu instead of a foreclosure. Maybe you take the 2-year hit on your credit instead of the 7-year hit on your credit.
There are options.
Maybe you get a cash for key situation where they're literally cutting you a check to start anew.
Yep.
You know, in as a result of you not damaging the property.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do those all the time, and people are confused and say, like, why would somebody take that? And it's like, because they need to start over.
Yeah.
It's that or nothing.
Yep.
So like, take the money and then don't be a jerk on the way out the door and destroy your house.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had one on net, like, literally never forget. We worked out a deal with somebody who was in Chester Springs, and it was in a newer development. The house was built in like 2005. This would have been 10 years ago, give or take. I don't know, something like that. And we negotiated. So a lot of people don't understand, like, if you are behind on your mortgage, you're going to lose your house, you're going through foreclosure, whatever. If you are willing to do a deed in lieu of foreclosure, then sometimes, many times, a bank will offer you cash for keys. As a result, it is a win-win situation for both parties. The bank gets to avoid a lot of legal fees, and you get to avoid, having to carry that balance. So normally the bank will release you from the money that you owe, and then may also give you a check on the back end. And so I negotiated this deal with these people out in Chester Springs, and they're going to get $10,000, which I thought was fair. It was like a $400,000 house, give or take, at the time, something like that. So when we do those cash for key situations, what happens is on that day that we agree, you have to let me in. And by letting me in, I'm taking top to bottom photographs of your house, every room, everything, because I need to have a baseline understanding of what the house looks like.
The condition, for sure.
So you don't, because if I don't come in and then you damage it, how do I know if you damaged it before or after, whatever? So I did that. The person let me in. I took all the photos. Everything's great. And they said, we're going to do $10,000 and it's going to be whatever the date was. Pick a date. So it's going to be on this day and this time, whatever. And then I would drive by. So the bank still sends me through even after we're doing that. It still sends me by the house. I had to take photos every week just to make sure the house is still standing. Are you still making good on it? Whatever. And there was a pod in the driveway. Didn't realize. Just thought, oh, they're moving. Of course, it's a pod.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Sure. So the day that we're supposed to meet, I get a text message from the woman at like 6 o'clock in the morning or 7 o'clock in the morning. All done. And I was like, okay, sounds great. When do you want to meet? No need. I was like, no need. I've got literally $10,000 for you today, right now. So I was like, that was weird. So I jump in the car, drive over, get to the house. It's a shell. A complete shell. They took everything.
No shit.
Everything. They took the obvious stuff. They took all the kitchen cabinets, the countertops, the toilets, the tubs, the vanities, the hardwood floors, the drywall, everything.
So they just gutted
They
it.
gutted it, completely gutted it, and wrote, "You're welcome," on the floor. And I was like, what? So I called police, and I was like, hey, like, this is a weird situation because they were in the house, but they vandalized it, whatever. Called the bank. And I was like, the house is gutted. The banker goes, what? I was like, it's gutted. He was like, what do you mean it's gutted? I was like, it's studs. So what? He's like, when was the house? He's like, I thought the house was kind of new. It's like, it was new. So the neighbor comes outside, and the police are there. And the neighbor's like, oh, that explains the pods. And I was like, what do you mean? They said they were getting pods dropped off all the time. The pod company would come, pick one up, drop another one off, pick one up, drop another one off. I hadn't realized. I thought it was the same pod every time I went. And they had just been loading it up. They took it all. And I reached out to the girl. I talked to the bank. Surprisingly, the bank decided not to press charges. The cop was kind of insinuating that it would be confusing anyway. He was like, well,
It would, for sure.
Can you guarantee it was her that did it? I said, well, she texted me an hour ago. So unless they had the world's quickest demo crew.
Right.
That could demo an entire house in
And
1
still,
hour.
there's
no dumpster, no trash,
to do that
no nothing.
anyway. Yeah.
It's spotless. They took they did a really great job. I don't know if they're
They should go into the demo clean out
if you're
industry.
listening, if you're that person, I hope you're running a demo company now.
Wow.
But yeah, they took it all. And I texted, I said, look,
You could have gotten your $10,000.
one, you're paying for all these pods. Two, you had to have dumping fees. Like, what do you do with used drywall?
Yeah, right.
Like, and how much do you expect to sell a used toilet for on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever? Like, you're in the hole
What?
out of spite.
Wow.
Like, this is out of spite. Like, you could have just left it and took the 10 grand.
Wow.
The bank was like, bank. We ended up fully renovating it top to bottom, making it brand new and sold it. It is what it is. But like, I'm like, what in the world possessed you to do that?
Dude.
So you run into all sorts of scenarios.
Yeah,
like,
man.
It's great.
It's definitely never a dull moment.
Never dull moment. And like looking at it now, like to where I am now, like shifting to like, I mean, I'm the same as like you. Like I'm like constantly filming content and putting stuff online. I'm like, that was gold. Like it's like TikTok gold. Like somebody demoed a property for no reason.
Yeah.
Like from that standpoint, I think it'd be interesting to like work on stuff and help people through it. But
it's always interesting from the content perspective, though. Like I don't post too much on Facebook of like distressed houses prior to owning them. It's like we try to. It's still sometimes when we do, it's like specifically there was this one house over in Chester, and this woman, man, like the way that she was living, she had pets in the house. It was a typical hoarder situation.
Sure.
But there were also pets living in the house and literally just shitting all over the floors everywhere. So it was like landmines that you couldn't even see because there was so much stuff everywhere, And the bathroom, like the plumbing didn't work in the house. So stacked up all the way to the ceiling in the corner was rags that she was wiping herself with. And after we closed on the house, I posted this picture on social media, and I had a bunch of people that were actually like, oh, you should be ashamed of yourself, like sharing that on social media. It's a shame that somebody lives like that. It's like, yeah, but I didn't choose it. And it's like, I'm not doing it to shame anybody. It's like we actually helped this woman out and got her into an assisted living facility and everything, and I think nobody else was there to help her anyway,
right.
Yeah,
like, it's funny. The internet is a funny place.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you should be ashamed. And it's like, why?
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
Like I try, like most of the stuff that I try to post now, I try to help people. But I also think posting stuff like that is hugely helpful because, I mean, so many people look at what we do and like, oh, it's got to be so easy or like whatever. Like, no, man. Like, what job is easy? Like,
none of them.
What job is easy?
Yep,
for real. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's like HGTV because you've got to do like a full renovation in 30 minutes that they have to like blow through so many parts. But like I tell people all the time, like I don't watch it anymore, and I don't even know if it's still on the air. But like those flip this house or whatever, like. They would always say our projected sales price. It's like, what is projected?
Yeah.
Projected sales price $1 billion. Like, I've only seen one episode where they went back and they revised it.
Really?
Yeah, and they said this person's projected income was X and what they actually did was Y. And I was like, that's responsible.
Yeah.
Because so many
fair.
were actually negative. Yeah. And like, that's real life.
Yep.
Like trying to project, you can project whatever you want. Some of the, I mean this with all due respect, and I'm saying this about myself too, because I'm also an investor. But like nobody can lie to themselves better than an investor mid-project.
Absolutely.
I'm going to sell this thing
because you have to.
I'm going to sell this thing for $350. Hey, we need to put in a sewer line. I'm going to sell this thing for $375. Hey, did you know that the roof needed to be done? We're going to sell this for $400,000.
Yep.
You're just like, because you have to get through the project and all the surprises. You're like, this isn't going to work. And at the end of the day, maybe you get more because you did those things. Maybe you don't.
Yeah.
But like, so projected project or projected profit is ridiculous.
Yeah. Dude, I say all the time, like I still think to this date, there's probably only been one renovation, not just flips, like rental rehabs also. I think I've hit a budget one time in my life. Like,
yeah, good for you. I've hit it none. One's a huge step. Never.
It is what it is.
Even when I'm padding it, I still blow it.
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
Every time. It's crazy. And then people are like, oh, what do you, they look at the sales price, whatever, like you make up numbers, whatever it is. Like, oh, well, you sold it for $500,000 and you bought it for $250.
Yep.
So you must have made $250,000.
That's right.
Like, what?
Now, it's crazy, man. Like I've actually talked to people that I still don't do like any mentoring for people that want to flip wholesale rentals, whatever. I just
with
don't
all your
really
free time?
Yeah, with all my free time. That's exactly why I don't, right? But like I'll help people when I can, right? And
sure.
I've reviewed some people's like previous projects with them and everything. Yeah. And we're talking like people that flipped multiple houses, and I'm kind of going over it with them. So what's your like typical purchase price? What did you buy 123 Main Street for? And how much did you spend on rehab? And like, what did you sell for? And dude, looking back on some of these projects with people, they lost money and they don't even know that they lost money. Dude.
Yeah.
it's like, that's great. Well, you're coming to me asking for help because you feel like you're stuck in a rut, because you are. You're literally losing money. There's a couple things that you're doing wrong that you need to address right now.
But you don't know until the dust settles. Because if you're doing multiple projects,
That's right.
and you have money coming in, if you're on like a draw schedule or whatever, you've got all this money coming in, but you have multiple projects. So it's like if you're not running, and that's that in my business, that's my end of what I bring to the table. Like, I am all over every dollar coming in and out and making sure that it's going to the right project for the right thing. You know, like,
You have to when you have
because if
multiple
you
things.
don't, it is very easy to not realize how badly you're doing because you're not letting the dust settle at all. So you're just like, oh, let's get another project. Okay, so I got more money coming in from draws and yada yada yada, and like I've completely lost all control over this situation. All I know is there's money coming in, there's money going out, and until I don't have any projects going on, I don't know where I stand.
Yep.
Maybe I've made money, maybe I've lost it. I don't know because we're just moving forward so quickly.
Yep.
And it's like, and sometimes that can help or hurt, you know, because on like one hand, like we've had it before where we've sold everything and kind of let the dust settle. And like for me, like just stopping having to do like that mental gymnastics of doing all that is helpful. But then it's also like kind of restarting a freight train again. It's like,
It is, because momentum is real, man.
momentum is 100% real, 100% real. And so like it helps from one perspective or not. If you're losing money, I guess the momentum, you need
to
momentum
stop the bleeding. Yeah.
well, or to hide the fact that you're bleeding, you know?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I don't know. It's easy to lose control over quickly because you're spending so much money, you know, like, I don't know what you were spending a week on your things, but like we were hitting, you know, you'd hit a spot where if you're doing multiple bigger projects, you're going through 25, 50 grand a week.
Oh yeah, man.
Without
Absolutely.
even batting an eye. And it's very easy to lose track of money when you're going through that kind of stuff. And like, you know, and it makes you like weirdly immune to things too, because it's like,
Which is a blessing and a curse.
it's a blessing
also.
and a curse because people are like, hey, we need this thing and it's $500. You're like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, keep going. But then you're like, oh, well, enough of those. I don't care about 500.
Stacks up real fast, too.
Adds up real fast.
Yeah.
Or if people get the fact that you're too busy to like be micromanaging money that much.
Oh yeah.
That's where things can really kind of get out of hand too. But
Oh yeah, man. It's really tough. Like in the rehab side of the business, because you're spending so much money so quickly all the time, and like you said,
all the time,
all the different places, and making sure that everything is accounted for properly to the right place. Like I was just talking with Evan this morning about that, like the bookkeeping specifically on flips. It's a job, man.
It's a full
and it depends how you run your projects too. Like he's just subbing everything out, so it's a little bit easier when it's like I have this sub that's $12,000 and this guy that's $7,000. You know, when you're buying material and like managing different guys, or if you have people on payroll, you have to stay on top of it.
Yeah, like
all the time.
I'm definitely a micromanager as far as it. Like so, like you know, I'm getting like full length Home Depot receipts and trying to figure out like, is this like got to the point
Did this
where
all go to this project or
please make sure the purchase is for the right job. Like don't mix the projects up because that is a complete nightmare. Like even if you had to do 2 separate purchases, I get that it's a pain in the butt, but it's much more of a pain in the butt in the back end than the front end.
Yep.
Than having 2 different Home Depot carts. Who cares?
Absolutely.
You know, then we going line by line. Hey, was this mailbox for who? Like, come on, man.
Yep.
But that's what you had to do in a way.
That's
I need to know exactly where we are.
Yep. So talk to me real quick about like lead gen. So I know that you're doing some of the social media stuff now, but like, I guess removing the bank stuff from the business, like what has been some of your other lead gen things you've done over the years?
Yeah, fair. So kind of going back to what I said before. So during COVID, I lost that whole bank side of my business. So my income was cut by 50% almost day one. And I will definitely admit that I was slow to pivot because like everybody else at the time, people were saying like, hey, let's go inside for a couple weeks and this should pass, whatever. So I thought, okay, well, the bank foreclosures will come back online pretty quickly. And spoiler alert, they did not. You know, so I was definitely slow to pivot. And we got to a point where same thing, blessing and curse. I think a lot of what we're talking about, there are blessing and curses, all of it.
Of course.
So the blessing and cursing of the bank foreclosure business is it came in so regularly like clockwork that it didn't force me to do things that I should have been doing within my regular real estate business, because it was hiding a lot of problems within my real estate business that I didn't realize until that business was gone.
That makes sense.
So mainly the fact that I was like what would be referred to as like a secret agent. I hated talking about the fact that I was a real estate agent. And because I have so many different hands and so many different things, I would be so vague with people for what I don't know. I don't know if it was like, I do know, if I'm going to be, I'll be honest. Like, I feel like just saying I'm a realtor sometimes isn't as impactful as I want it to be, because everybody knows real estate agents. The bar to become a real estate agent is much lower than I think that it should be for what it is that we're doing. I'm not saying that we should be held to the same account as like an attorney or something like that, but we are dealing with people's, in most cases, largest asset, and you can get your real estate license in like 4 weekends.
Yeah.
So I got away from saying that I was a realtor, because like when I meet people and I'd say, oh, I'm a realtor, people are like, oh my God, I know 15 realtors. I'm like, great, like awesome. I'm like,
yep.
So I got away from that, and I would just say vaguely say like, I'm in real estate. Great. What does that mean? And the thing is that people don't generally ask follow-up questions.
That's right.
They don't want to.
Yep.
So I'd just be like, I'm in real estate. And people are like, great, moving on. So it got to the point, I remember I coach my kids in sports. It's like one of my favorite things to do. And I was coaching my daughter in soccer. And I was standing at one point, there was like a scrimmage or something or along the line. And I was standing on the sideline with this guy whose daughter was on my team. And he was like, what do you do for a living? And I was like, real estate. And he was like, oh, like me too. What in real estate do you do? And I was like, oh, well, I do flipping and I own rentals and I'm a realtor. And I had known this guy for like 2 years or maybe 3 years at this point. And he was like, you're a realtor? And I was like, yeah, I'm a realtor. That's what I do. And he was like, I had no idea. And I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. And I was like, well, what do you do? And he's like, well, I work in corporate America in a real estate, like a partnership, whatever. But then like on the side, I flip properties and I build new construction homes. And I was like, oh. I was like, what have you done recently? And he rattled off like these 5 houses. I think it was 5 houses that he had just done and sold in media, all for $1 million+ And he's like, I really wish I knew you were a real estate agent. And I was like, me too.
I wish
Me
also.
too. So I went out that day or the next day or whatever, and I had like Remax shirts made up. And I was like, dude, like, for who, for what? Like, why am I so afraid to tell people I'm a realtor? Like, so what if you know 50 other realtors?
Right.
It does not make a difference. What matters is that you can put my face to that industry, and then over time, I'll earn your trust.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was during that time period that like I realized that, along with not telling people what I did for a living, the people that I did actually talk to, I was always just telling people like what I wasn't willing to do. So people are like, you should shoot a video. I'm like, I'm not doing a video. I'm not going to do an open house. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And like, it got to the point where I'm like watching this bank business fail and not come back as quickly as I wanted it to, or you know, I won't say at all, but going from like 25 to like 40 houses a year to 1 a year is
that's basically
not at all.
Yep.
But going from that, and then like, okay, great. So here is my regular retail business, which I've always had. But here it is. It's kind of steady Eddie. I produce the same amount of income from it every year, which is, again, a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing from the standpoint of, I think a lot of realtors don't have that luxury of knowing like, hey, my numbers are going to kind of consistently be around here.
Definitely.
But it also shows that there's no growth. Okay, why is there no growth? Because I don't tell anybody what the hell I do for a living. or like, I think that I do, if I was to toot my own horn, I think I do a lot more as a realtor than most realtors do. And I'm not telling anybody about that either.
Right.
So like, not saying you always have to be like, at the same time, I don't always like the fact that like, hey guys, here I am, I'm donating to charity or whatever the heck it happens to be. Like,
sure.
Sometimes I'm like, ew, like that feels kind of gross.
Yeah, it feels
but
a little cringe.
Yeah, a little cringe.
I get it.
But at the same time, like maybe not on to that aspect, but like maybe at the time, like I remember, I think one of the first instances I did it, like I had a client, she's lovely, but she had this big old house and it was packed with stuff. And I remember she hired a clean out company and we were supposed to settle like the following week. The cleanup company was coming on the weekend, and she was supposed to settle the following week. And I called her on Monday, and I was like, "How did it go?" And she was like, "Nobody showed up." And I was like, "What do you mean nobody showed up?" She's like, "Nobody came." And I was like, "Okay." So I cleared my schedule. I ordered a dumpster. I had a dumpster there within an hour or two. And I was like, "I'm going to clean this house out for this lady." Is it part of my job? No. Did I get paid? No. Did I shoot content? I did. I'm like,
absolutely, I will at that point.
Like,
yep.
And that was the first time I did that, where I was like, look, this is going above and beyond. No other realtor is going to sit here and clean out somebody's house. So I'm just going to let people know that this is what I'm doing. And so going back to your original question, like that's what I started doing. I started realizing, okay, by telling all the people what I'm not willing to do, is that benefiting them or me or my life or my income? No.
Right. The answer is no.
The answer
all
is
the
no.
above. Yeah.
Right. So I need to change my mindset. I need to be more open to doing these things I didn't want to do. And I needed to actually tell people about the things that I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that has been a game changer. You know, like one, it's put me into rooms that I wouldn't have been in, like the coffee meeting. I would have never done that beforehand. I would never agree to do that. I've gone to real estate conferences. I went for 20 years without going to a real estate conference. And like some of them are worthwhile, some of them aren't. But like, it's just about being there, being in the mindset of like, okay, what can I take away from this? What can I learn? And what can I help other people with?
Yeah.
And like, it turns into this other kind of snowballing effect where it's like, oh, wow, I picked up this one little nugget from this thing or this one little nugget from this other thing, or I gave somebody this thing. And like, that's been a game changer for me. Posting about like that clean out. I was there for three straight days. We went through, I think, if I remember correctly, 4 40-yard dumpsters.
It's a lot.
It was a lot of work. And I basically put the whole thing on social media and people were like, wow, I didn't know, not only did I not know that you're a real estate agent because you don't really post about that, but I certainly didn't know you were doing all this other stuff. And like people will crack their jokes like, hey, come clean my house for free or whatever. It's like, yeah, great. One, I probably would because I'm a glutton for punishment. But two, like it just helped people realize, oh, wow, okay, yes, he's a real estate agent. Yes, I know a million real estate agents, but I don't know many real estate agents like this. Like this.
Yeah.
And also like I shoot a lot of content about, you know, things that I think just aren't people aren't touching on, or that maybe people don't even know. Like it's crazy, you know, it's I think a lot of time because that bar is kind of low, I don't know that all agents are kind of where they need to be with understanding the contract or how things work or what to do if you get put in a situation. So I try to make videos about that. Maybe it hits people, maybe it doesn't, maybe it's helpful, maybe it's not. But like it's just trying to provide value to people. And like that to me, from a lead gen standpoint, has been huge because people now that I've known for a long time now understand like, oh wow, like either I didn't know that you did this or I didn't know to the extent to which you're doing this. And like my concerns about, like I know the agents sometimes will post like, oh, stop posting all your just listed, just solds. And like, yeah, sure, I guess. Like, I think that it helps to show people that maybe aren't in your world, like, oh, wow, you are producing more than a typical agent, or your knowledge base is different than a typical agent. I get that from an agent's perspective, or like whatever. Sometimes people say like it's white noise, and we talked about it earlier. Like, I think that sometimes it can be a little bit of white noise. I think you need to give it a little color, meaning like yes, we sold this house, and yes, we got multiple offers or sold for X over asking price, but this is why.
Yeah.
Right? This is the groundwork. I met this person at this time. I told them that we should do X, Y, Z, whatever. They did that thing, and then this was the result. I think that that's more impactful than just listed, just sold. But even still, on the just listed, just sold stuff, it just helps people know, like, oh wow, I did not realize. Like you look,
stay top of mind.
I think last year, I don't know if these numbers are 100% correct. I read them. I didn't like research whether or not where they pulled the information from, but I think they said like last year that 70% of real estate agents didn't sell one single house. So like, if nothing else, I'm trying to show like I'm not that agent.
I'm not that guy.
Not knocking that person. I don't know what their situation is. Obviously, that's a big number, 70%. You know, I think on average, a typical real estate agent sells about 3 houses a year, something like that. I'm not huge. Like I said, I think about like a medium fish, but like I'm a one-man band, and this year I'll do like 40, give or take. So, like that's what I'm trying to show people is that I'm not an enormous team. So like, when you hire me, you're going to get me. When you get put into a situation where your back's against the wall, I'm going to have your back, whether that means I'm getting my hands dirty or whatever. But at the same time, I'm telling my story so that people know. And instead of doing like what I used to do, where it's like a secret agent. And like, maybe it's annoying. I don't know. Like sometimes people make fun of me about it, but the funny thing is to me, like when people make fun of me about it, I think I've pretty thick skin, like I've known people like
I actually get excited when people make fun of me. It's like,
yeah, but that's where I was going. Like for me, like regardless of what they're saying, like whatever they're saying, I'm not even hearing, if that makes any sense. What I'm hearing is you saw it.
That's exactly
you saw
right,
it.
man.
You saw
exactly
it.
Right.
Maybe it was cringe. Maybe you want to make fun of me about it. Whatever. I don't care. All I'm hearing is you saw it.
Saw it.
And that's what I care about. Like, I'm in your algorithm, and I'm here, and hopefully I'm providing some value to you. And hopefully at some point, if you decide we can try to do business together, or if not, you can just keep scrolling. Either way, so what?
Dude, it's so funny, and I can relate so much, right? Because obviously wholesalers, by and large, have a pretty bad name, right?
What?
It's like a lot of times people hear wholesaler and they're just like, oh, that's a scammer, or
Sure.
whatever, right? And kind of rightfully so, just like with agents, right? It's like there's a bad taste in people's mouth for a reason, and I don't really want to associate with that, so I totally understand. And for a long time, I did the same thing and didn't really say too much of what I was doing. Dude, and it's so funny, like I realized it was kind of a couple things converging at the same time, but a couple years ago, I had, she's not really an aunt of mine. It's like, I'm so bad at the family tree. It's like my brother-in-law's wife's aunt. But, holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, I always see this woman, right? And didn't live too far from here. And like 2 years ago, I hear another buddy of mine that wholesales houses, and he's a Jersey guy. He has her house under contract and he's trying to wholesale it or whatever. And he brought it to me because he's a Jersey guy. And I was like, wait a minute. Aunt Sally's house? Like, how is she selling it to him? Turns out, and I thought that I was kind of vocal enough on social media about what I do.
Yeah.
Turns out she had no idea. And she was even friends with me on social media. She had no idea that that's what Drew did.
Yeah.
She had no idea.
Yeah.
So it turns out he ended up not selling the deal. Some things messed up on their end. And a couple months later, she ended up selling the deal to me. And I did the deal.
But like, she knew what you did at that point.
She knew what I did. And it's so funny because we think that just because we have shared something on social media or, we go to events that people just know what you do and know what you specialize in.
Right.
They don't, man. People are busy. People are absorbed in the fires that they have to put out. And
100%.
It's
we all live our own life. We're going on to this thing to kind of zone out for a couple of minutes. You've got a real quick time to kind of get somebody's attention, and then that's it.
That's right.
And if you're not staying focused with it, because like in my world, there are a million realtors. If somebody else will jump on that, somebody else will do a better job if you're falling off. And like I look back on it now because again, you don't know what you don't know. And like I remember I used to pay this service to post for me, and I thought, oh well, this is making me, I'm active. And then I look back on those numbers of like the how people engaged with it, and they're like almost zero. Right. It's like. I look back on it now, I'm like, this is horrendous.
Yeah.
Why would I think that this would be something that would grab somebody's attention?
I was like phoning it in.
And you can get that I was phoning it in.
Yep.
Like, I was paying a service that had to post generic bullshit just to like make sure that they could sell it to a million different agents worldwide and that it would make sense.
Yep.
And that's the way it felt.
Yep.
And that's what, your results were directly impacting that. So now kind of going back to the original question, like the lead gen, like, I feel like I'm, a part realtor, part content creator, but it's fun. I like it. I didn't think I would. I mean, originally I hated it. Like originally
it feels weird, man.
It does feel weird. Like you're filming yourself. Like my kids make fun of me because like during the editing process, you're watching yourself and my kids are like, you watching yourself? And I'm like, I'm just editing.
I have to.
I'm editing the video. And I'm pretty raw with mine. Like my stuff's not heavily edited. Like I'll shoot something from the car. I'll put it in CapCut.
It's the easiest way. Yeah.
Cut, whatever. And I feel like I like the real stuff better than like super, super highly edited stuff that feels like, I don't know, it just feels different.
Yep.
So I like that kind of stuff, but like just as a for instance, so like my goal for this year, which I'm a little bit behind, I have to shoot a few more. I wanted to have 500 videos on YouTube by the end of 2025. Oh, wow. I'm at 470, so not too far off, dude, especially with shorts and stuff. But like, I think I checked the other day, again, My kids are like, Mr. Beast. I'm like, I'm not Mr. Beast.
That's right.
I am a real estate agent in a tiny little area, but like that I have, just as of the other day, I had like 165,000 views.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, dude, like that's mine. Like, again, trying to explain to my children who it's like a lost cause, like sometimes they're like, Mr. Beast gets 50 million views in a minute. I'm like, got it. I'm like, but if you understand, like I'm a tiny real estate agent here in a very small corner of a big state in a big country, that's bananas that 165,000 views or whatever, is crazy. Or it's like, and I think it's like 3,000 watch hours or something. Like that's nuts to me. And I know,
and so many other things play into that, right? It's like the niche matters and the intent of, the listeners to actually follow or further engage with you and everything.
100%.
And the potential is there as well. It's like somebody finding you through your content and then doing a deal or multiple deals. They decide that they want to flip 8 houses in Delaware County and Chester County in the next year with you. It's like, that's a lot of revenue.
Yeah. But all advertising is a crapshoot. Like you don't know, you can run it. You can put up a billboard. You can't guarantee you're going to get a phone call. You can run an ad on TV. You can't guarantee you're going to get a phone call. I can't guarantee I'm going to get a phone call from this. But that the potential versus the effort and the cost is unparalleled in my opinion. And so, I talk to a lot of real estate agents because I'm not trying to I can't keep up with those stupid terms all the time, but gatekeep, I guess. I'm not trying to gatekeep the information. So I'll talk to realtors. I'm like, just shoot a video.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, I don't like the way my voice sounds. I don't like the way I look or whatever it happens to be. I'm like, dude, I'm a 45-year-old overweight bald guy. Like, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. You'll be fine. If I could do it, you could do it. Like, and you don't know. Like, I sold a house recently from it. The people bought a 7-figure house. They found me online.
That's awesome.
Like, that's huge. Huge for stuff that I'm not spending money. I'm spending time, but I'm not spending money, and again, like as long as you're providing value to people, you're trying to provide them with stuff that like, not just constant like nonsense about me, but like, like I'll shoot videos about things I see in houses. Like, hey, this is a red flag. Look for this or look for that or do this or do that. Like I'm trying to make sure that at the end of the day that they're like, oh wow, like that. Glad I watched that.
Yeah,
Glad
it's not only
away.
that it's entertaining, but there's also knowledge that I'm taking away from that last 45-second video that I watched, and that's awesome.
Yeah, and it kind of that was something that I took away from COVID. It sounds weird, but like the YouTube thing, like obviously I use YouTube. I'm a very hands-on person, so like I'll fix my car or fix appliances, whatever. Like I just like working with my hands. So, but I always go into YouTube and like try to figure out like how do I do this. And I'm a visual learner as well. But moving forward, like I realized, and this kind of goes back. This was something I wanted to talk about. Now we're kind of running long on time here, but like about like getting yourself into the right room. What I realized years ago, during that time period, was that so many people are providing such valuable content online. And when you kind of question it, maybe some of it is self-serving from the standpoint of like trying to get a sale out of it or get somebody to wholesale the house to it. But the other thing about it is that people in our circles don't care and are sick of hearing about it. Like my wife does not need any more information on the agreement of sale in Pennsylvania. Like, it's like, yes, hon, sure. Great. Like, and so I realized that having that avenue is not only beneficial for me because it gives me an outlet to talk to people about something that I find interesting and I want to share about, but it gives them an opportunity to look up that information and get it from somebody who wants to share it.
Absolutely.
Versus like, I feel like at times, like going back to the being in the right room, part of my hesitation with today was the fact that I feel like you've had people in here that have done so much more than I've ever done. And not from a standpoint of like jealousy or whatever. Again, going back to like the value, like what value will I bring your audience, being that I don't assign commercial buildings and make 6 figures, whatever, like you've had much more impressive people in that world than me, but with that being said, like being in those rooms, when people say it like, oh, get in the right room. And I think if you have a self-limiting mindset, you're like, what difference is that going to make? Well, like going to those coffee meetings for me, Like we meet up on Wednesday mornings for people that are listening and have coffee and media. Like hearing other people talk, one, I don't feel crazy because when I'm with my sphere of influence and you're trying to have conversations about the things that we do on a daily basis, and you can just tell that people are like, what? You're like, oh, the craziest thing happened this week. I was spending $50,000 on a flip, and people are like, you spent $50,000? What? You know, like one, you're like totally missing your target audience. Two, half the time I think that my sphere of influence thinks I'm nuts because I'm always
we are.
100%. Like your mind is crazy. Like I'm like, I tried to get in a conversation the other day about buying a property. Like I love my friends, but like I try to get into a conversation about buying properties using a cross segregation study to bring down my taxable income, and people are like,
the fuck are you talking about?
I'm trying to talk about the Eagles, dude. Like, what are you, like, tax, what?
Yep.
And I'm like, so being in the right room, like one, you're able to have those conversations freely with people that can, like, understand and appreciate what it is that you're talking about. But then you're also getting ideas like, oh, well, I'm working on this. And you're like, oh, shit, I didn't even think of that. Yep. Like I think that that's so beneficial. But sometimes I understand that when people say, like, get in the right room, people are like, what does that even mean? Yeah. And it just means about like everything else, like just making that lunge into like
people that are going to elevate you. It's like people that are walking a path that you feel aligned with and you want to be associated with. Right. You know?
Yeah, but I think it's hard when you're on the outside and you're like, where do I begin? It's like, well, you know, in this case, if you want to be an investor, show up to that meeting on Wednesday morning. Yeah. Like it'll motivate you in a way that like you can't comprehend because maybe you get pieces of the puzzle that you haven't put together yet yourself. Or you could like say like, hey man, I was in this situation and this is what happened. Like I had that person this morning ask me like, hey, I'm buying this property and there's a tenant in place. Like, how does that work? Like, and they're already under a contract, you know, and I'm like, oh, this is what you had to do. Like, I think that that's so beneficial in taking that first step. Like, I think when people look at it and they go, how am I going to get into investing? Where am I going to get the money? It's like, well, why don't you just show up to the free coffee thing? Mm-hmm. And then maybe you'll get some nuggets and then you can be like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't even think of that. Like you start to put pieces together. And like, that's when I was thinking about it today. It's like, well, wait a second. Am I able to bring as much value as these other people? I don't know, but I know that me going to those things has helped them so much. So maybe somebody listening to me will help them take that first step as well.
Dude, there is not a single doubt in my mind that you dropped so many golden nuggets throughout this conversation that people would be crazy if they weren't able to pick some things up through it.
I hope so, man. That's the reason why we're here, right? We're just here to try to help to get people to take that first step. The first step's the hardest. From there, you figure it out.
Absolutely. And that's the coolest thing about doing this podcast. You know, it's like, I love when people come up to me and they're like, oh yeah, you know, I've been watching all your most recent podcasts and everything. And, you know, sometimes when somebody's like, oh, well, I had this issue and I heard you talk with Pete about something like that and it helped me get over this thing or it helped me take action. It's like, that's the coolest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's cool. And dude, you know so much, you know, obviously you do so much, you know so much. And I think it's a real value to be around you and see everything that you're going through and that you're providing it to other people through podcasts and through to helping people. Like, I know you said like, I don't really mentor people, but like this is that method.
Right.
It may not be one-on-one. They may not have an access to call you and bounce questions off of you, but by watching these podcasts, you're like, oh, wait a minute. Like that's how you get started. Mm-hmm. And that's how you get to figure it out. Like at times, like I said, like, some of the properties I bought in the past were through programs that no longer exist. Right. But there are new programs. Yep. And
there's always a way.
There's always a way, but you just have to be in the mindset of saying like, instead of telling myself all the reasons why this isn't going to work, let me just figure out how it is going to work.
Dude, I love that. That's a mic drop moment right there.
There you go.
Pete, if people want to reach out to you, where do they find you?
All over social media. You know, it's funny. One last thing my daughter said yesterday. She said, we were in school. Everybody's got cell phones now. I don't love that fact, but it is what it is. She said we had a contest, me and my friends at lunch the other day. Who could find their parents the fastest on the internet? And she goes, and I won. And I said, I don't doubt it. She goes, all I did was type in your name, and it's just like, you know, like, so
50 different results.
Yeah, exactly. So yes, all over social media. Just spell my name right and I'll come up. Maybe even if you don't. So
yeah. That's perfect. We'll drop some links in the show notes and everything.
Yeah, Pete, and always happy to help.
Been a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man.
Awesome, dude.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Boom.